worse.
Well, it doesn't get any better. Commitment update. I've been speaking with John, our assessor that we met a few meetings ago, and the commitment and the seemingly insurmountable work required to process this year's commitment. I think Chuck had a pretty good conversation with Mike and Paul about all the work that they've done. And I want to have a frank discussion with the Board of Selectmen about the additional work that was required than they anticipated. They gave us a very fair price on that extra work, and they did probably about 3 times as much work than they anticipated. They're not looking for any restitution there. I am asking the Board of Selectmen, what can we do to make this relationship whole? We're in a 2-year contract. I think it would go a long ways if we extended the contract and absorbed some of the costs in the long run. It makes a... What's that?
What are you talking?
I don't know yet. I mean, I guess I need to know if I'm going in the right direction first.
Just a contract extension would soften them.
Yeah, and absorb the cost into a couple of years, and then
over a long period of time.
Right. So they're talking. They went $13,000–$14,000 over what they anticipated in cost.
Even if you don't absorb the cost, at least it shows that you're appreciating their work if you extend the contract. I mean, that's kind of a traditional.
We need to do to make sure that maintain the relationship.
I mean, I was confident in O'Donnell when we hired him. Did I know that there was a leap of faith for you guys and the people to be confident in them? If we lock them into a longer contract, I don't lose any faith. I just have as much faith in them as a contractor as I did before. But we might be able to make this relationship whole, and they're in it for the long run anyway.
Based on the conversation that I had with Mike and Paul, and seeing the amount of work those gentlemen, their entire team had to do in order to get us to where we are today, and there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done, I wouldn't be opposed to extending it to a 4-year deal to overlay that cost a little bit longer.
If you guys would like, I'll work with John on a proposal to bring back to you. But I didn't want to bring back a contract extension and not have this discussion with you first. Okay. I mean, a 2-year contract with a firm for assessing is short anyway. So if you went to a 4-year, it's not like it's obscene. It's probably smart. And then additionally, we're asking them to do that quote for mapping. I mean, if they get, it's almost a slam dunk. They're getting that. They're going to get their the mapping deal. So additional service that they're going to get paid to do is going to help knock off a little bit of their angst about going the extra mile with us. And it's not like we're overpaying for it. We're still getting a pretty good market rate.
The only thing I would say is that if we do extend the contract, I would expect that the personnel that I've seen here in the office, as well as their professionalism, stay at that level. Yeah, it's extremely high, and I was extremely impressed when I talked to those 2 gentlemen.
Yeah, and that's the difference in O'Donnell when it comes to other assessing firms is they invest in their people, lots of training. Most of those guys have got decades of experience in O'Donnell. And Mike and John, their father started the company. They've got 30 years. So listen to them sit down and talk about assessing stuff, it's an amazing conversation.
They've lived it.
They've lived it, yeah. And their dad could walk in at any moment and make them look silly. So they have all the knowledge available. I'll work with John on something. I'm sorry, these are long reports. And none of them are fun either. We're still working on with the auditor putting the final pieces together. Included in your packet, which I guess is the last packet, there's a quote from our auditor for doing some training, which is minimally what we need to do. They said between $960 and almost $1,300 to do training. That would be minimal to get us up to speed on what we need for bookkeeping. And then I wanted to talk to you guys about how bookkeeping could be handled. There's a couple of different approaches that we could do to make our bookkeeping better. We could hire a part-time bookkeeper to carry out clearer execution of accounts. The hardest part right now is with our current staff structure. We have our bookkeepers doing a million other things. And that's not fair to the bookkeeper, and obviously it's resulting in our product. Now has pros and cons and costs and everything. We could also repurpose our current staff. You know, Tracy's been doing our bookkeeping. We could say, okay, you're the bookkeeper, remove you from the situation, but also the other things that she's doing are very important as well. So we costs, pros and cons, and all kinds of, there's a lot of cost benefit that needs to be done in both those scenarios. And one last one that, it's too bad that John left. I didn't even think about the fact that he was here. But we could outsource our bookkeeping, and that's what else I put in your packet. We reached out to Osmond Page, Muhammad Osmond, and asked him about their recent work with the water district and outsourcing their bookkeeping, which has gone flawlessly. And it essentially takes what you would have as an accounting department and puts it somewhere else. And then you literally just pay the cost of it, and you don't have to worry about the overhead.
But what would we do? We'd essentially have 3 clerks, 3 desk clerks?
We would in the short term. In the short term, we have so much, we couldn't absorb any single one of those, but in the long term, we could, through attrition, we could figure out a better structure. But yeah, in the short term, we need to be, my opinion, is we need to be decisive on what we're going to do on this bookkeeping, because we have kind of a messy audit. And if we can clean that up relatively quickly, I'd rather do that, because right now we haven't done enough change in this fiscal year to have a clean audit next year. And I think that's probably our goal, is the cleanest audit possible.
What I would like to know, before we even discuss anything like that, is other towns our size, what do they have for staff? Because to me, a staff of 3 should be more than enough to do with a town the size of Boothbay. And that's my opinion. I may be totally wrong. I mean, you may come back within facts to prove me wrong, but it just seems like 3 should be able to do what we require of them.
Yeah, and you're right. Probably we're staffed. 3 people in our business office is. You'll probably find that some towns are doing it with less. Some towns are doing it with part-time bookkeepers. Sometimes you're going to find the town managers are doing the bookkeeping tasks, and it's all about the comfort level with the auditor, and the auditor being able to prove that you have the segregation of duties, which we can't prove right now, and we can't prove that we have a clean audit either. So we're kind of up against we're in between a rock and a hard place, I guess. If we could get by with the staff level that we had if we were doing it well, but we're not doing it well, so then we need to reassess. We could certainly invest in our staff now and get them the skills that they need in order to do proper bookkeeping. But right now, the only person we have on staff that has had bookkeeping classes is me. And I could turn too, but I'm also the tax collector, treasurer, road commissioner, general assistance administrator.
I think Steve's biggest concern is if we did outsource, then basically we'd have somebody standing around doing nothing, some portion of each day. And we can't afford that. I
completely disagree. I understand how that perception is there, but right now we have people that are overtasked. Matter of fact, I think they could probably do their jobs better if we could take the bookkeeping off the shoulders. Right now, who's doing the majority of the execution of bookkeeping is Tracy. And she'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not prepared for this job, but she does it, and she does it without complaint, and does it as best as she possibly can. But if she could actually turn to doing the jobs that she's better trained for, she could do them much better. In the long run, yeah, I think we could probably reassess what staff we need and what staff we don't need, but in the short term, we just need to get back on track.
I think if we are going to look at the short-term solutions, we need to look at the long-term solutions as well and have a plan for both. I think that we've got a great staff here. We can figure out something, but if we decide to outsource, and like Steve said, if there's towns out there that are our size that are doing everything with as many people, or even as you said, less, then we need to figure out something, because we can't afford to keep adding on people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've the town of Boothbay has had a top-down approach where the town manager has been probably had the most investment in skill. That only works good if you have very little going on. we don't have very little going on. We have a lot of things going on, and we could fix this bookkeeping. We certainly could over a year, you know, or two. But I don't think that's what is in our best interest. I think of making a swift approach and doing it quickly and getting it back on track. And if we outsource bookkeeping, we can always bring it back.
What kind of money are you talking?
You can see that the agreement that we had Osmond and Page put together for us is $3,600 a month. So if you figure that out in FTEs, it's much less than a full-time employee.
It is, but it's all that money we saved in code and everything else.
That's 40 grand right there.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but it puts us right back on track really quickly. And you know, I guess if we're inclined to even think about that, then I would say, can we bring Muhammad Osman in to discuss his business with him? And I think you quickly see why it makes sense when we're sitting down with a professional that manages hundreds of businesses.
I'm sure, I mean, I've had a conversation, the water companies has switched
Right.
to private and they love it, and it makes perfect sense to me. I don't question that whatsoever. I question cost versus what we already have.
Right.
That's my, you know, I just can't go along with spending 40 grand unless it's proven to me. You know what I mean? And
The well is in the city.
Well, once everything's cleaned out, then we can train the office staff to continue from there on.
We could.
But if you're talking 1, maybe 2 years, you're talking 40, maybe 80 grand. That's a lot.
And then you need to train the staff on top of it.
Right. And then you're gonna have to spend money on training. So you quickly could be up at 100 grand with that.
In 3 or 4 months, we could get this bookkeeping under wrap and start our budget process of looking at what our staffing is. I mean, I'm not saying I know, but I know that we've saved $20,000 to $30,000 in code enforcement. I mean, we may be able to maintain this bottom line, and that's what it's about, right? I mean, if one cost goes up and the other goes down, and the bottom line stays the same.
How long does it take to do the bookkeeping?
This,
An average week?
yeah, probably the biggest things that slow us down are payroll. But I'd say it probably takes 20 hours a week. But I also think that Osmond Page would do it faster. I mean, they're just more readily trained to do the work, and the faster they do it, the more money they make. So
Could you have him come in and speak to us at the next meeting? Maybe
that's
explain?
where I was going. Is if I got a little bit of a hook here, I was going to say, let's bring back.
I'd like
Let's
to have
bring
him
it.
come in and explain to us what their process will be, and then how we'll train our staff to do it once they get it.
I don't think that's part of the deal.
No, they take it. They take over bookkeeping completely.
Right, he's saying that we internally or sending our staff out to be trained, and then maybe being able to take accounting back again in years to come.
Right, in a few years.
Well, I knew they would take it over. I mean, once they get it all straightened out and we get
They don't do it in-house.
No, they won't be doing it. I didn't care where they do it. Once they do it and straighten it out, and then we retrain the staff to take it over.
I don't know, that's not in your, I'm sure that's not in your estimate though, of retraining of our staff.
No.
No.
And, you know, if we train our staff on how to properly do bookkeeping, we're gonna invest a lot of training in them, and then, you know, that's training we expect to last forever too. We don't, you know, when you have turnover, then you need to retrain your staff. Right now we're using
So this
budget.
is terminal, then there's no fix for it.
What's that?
So this is terminal, then there's no fix for it. unless we
I would like to
spend
get to
money.
greener pastures before we start talking about bringing it back.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. This
You
the
could
short
do a
term
lot of
fix.
training for the money you're gonna spend.
Yep, we could.
Do a lot of training for what the money we're gonna spend.
And then they quit, and you gotta train them. This is the kind of
Well,
things
there's still a heck of a lot to.
Jim, has anybody thought about a work-study program with any of the girls down to the school that may be taking bookkeeping or something? I mean, that would get you maybe a girl in here for a couple, 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
Down there, and you could take that girl, use her for a counter, can maybe give Tracy a break to do the stuff that she
I
needs to
think
do.
that's how Tracy actually started.
Yeah.
Is it, well, that's how a lot of us did it.
We hired it,
Yeah.
I was on the board.
Careful, you're gonna date yourself.
I know.
The fact that we bring in $8 million and spend $8 million a year, we're at the level of bookkeeping that we need very good bookkeeping. And settling for small business bookkeeping.
Well, I was
is
just
not-
thinking like accounting personnel to give a break to the people that are doing the bookkeeping part of it.
The level of sophistication you get with an $8 million company is sometimes having a controller and a bookkeeper, and I think that's overkill for us. I don't think we need that. I think we can get by with just a bookkeeper, as long as there's plenty of structure there. And the other thing that we need to get past is that in other companies you don't need segregation of duties, but we're government, we need segregation of duties.
I just kind of thought, like, if you did bring a girl in, say at a junior level, they do junior and senior, they may be the next one that comes out and is able to slide right into your bookkeeping position when somebody retires or something.
Yep.
And you've already started.
There's no doubt I am proposing a very expensive and Cadillac version of a fix to our problem, and there are cheaper ways to do it.
I'd be willing to listen, but I'd also want to know what other towns do
Okay.
at the same time.
I understand your dilemma, you want a quick fix, and a good quick fix. But I'm definitely willing to listen to it. Gonna sell it.
Turn that fan on, so get the ass equity.
Yeah.
I knew it, that's a switch.
Yeah, that's the switch right there, the knob. If there's a possibility that you're interested in what Osmond Page does, then we can bring Muhammad Osmond in here, and and at the same time, this is just scratching the surface of one of the possible fixes that we can ask our auditor what they think too about the level of severity in our audit, because we've only really touched upon that subject. Okay. I'll invite Muhammad Osman back.
Please.
Thanks for listening. I know it's always tough to listen to the town manager wants to spend more money. St. Andrews. I don't think we've talked about this issue yet in the last few weeks. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, we need to recap what happened Wednesday and the actions that we want to take. And you'll see also under new business that I put St. Andrews, because I actually, if we go forward in the discussions that we had Wednesday, then we probably need to have some small business items, some motions that I would recommend. But we've just been inundated with telephone calls, emails, and people that were impressed with how the meeting went on last Wednesday, and I'm sure that you guys usually get that much more input that I don't get. So I think the general consensus is that we actually put together a half-decent meeting, and we got out of it what we thought we may get out of it, and that was support for action, even though that action is probably still undefined, that the task force needs to put that together. I put in the memo to you guys a few weeks ago was the reiteration of the timeline, but since then you've had one meeting, then you've had that Wednesday meeting. I don't think we need to go over it again. So if you want, we can just pick this up under new business and the proposed motions that we have there, so we can move on.
Isn't it technically old business where we've discussed it before?
I think that's kind of the thing.
I think technically it's old business.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
100 years old business, really.
100 years old business. Yeah.
The question was Dr. Gregory, was he a Boothbay or a Boothbay Harbor? We're kind of discussing that.
Let's just for argumentative sake take it up under new business, but I'll defer to Chuck as the chairman. Okay. That's all I have for reports. Thank you for tolerating.
All right, questions?
No.
Old business, fee schedule.
This seems like it took place a long time ago, but it really wasn't that long ago. is that we have, we put this fee schedule down on paper and put it out on our website so that we could start using it in a motion dictated. It was as discussed, but then we have to come back and ratify that and make sure that there were some small errors that we had to take care of, and some of them were spelling errors that I took care of immediately. The first thing was the development application. I put in your packets before to show you what that, because there was some discussion on what is a development application, so I put that in the packets with it. Any further discussion on what the development application was? The other thing is that according to state law, fees for junkyards and automobile graveyards need to be set at, I had this all memorized 2 weeks ago. Needs to be $50 per application. So in the packets that I assembled for you 2 weeks ago, I made all those changes. Also, voter registration lists, we put with town manager permission, but it needs to be the registrar. So we just changed that to $1 per page with registrar permission. Those ended up being all of the changes that we needed to, and it was yellow on your.
There was a handful of them that I had emailed to you right after you posted it on the website. Were those all incorporated?
They were all incorporated because they were just typos and administratively just transpired wrong. So the board had already discussed them, they just didn't make the list properly. So the list that I put forward to you only really had 3 changes that needed to be made in order to make them whole. And that was to change junkyard and automobile graveyard license applications to $50, auto recycling businesses to $50, and the voter registration list to $1 per page with the registrar permission.
You had also mentioned possible changes due to government rules.
That's what I was talking about, was the graveyard. And the statute clearly puts what we can and cannot charge for those. So we didn't want to be in non-compliance with state law. Not that there are any fee police. So if I could get the board to make those changes, and I can repeat them, so that we can ratify the rest of the fees too. So we said pending review at the meeting before last. So maybe an appropriate motion would be to ratify these as proposed.
So motion is made and seconded to ratify the fee schedule as proposed. Questions? All those in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you. There's a lot of work that you guys did on the fee schedule. Thank you.
New business. I think we already discussed the bookkeeping service.
I think we kicked that first.
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews. So in your packets, I guess not in your packets, on the table in front of you, I put, as we discussed on Wednesday, together a resolution of the town of Boothbay, and I'll read that since not everybody has it. And this is, I think, the intent of what you guys had discussed on Wednesday. So a resolution of the Board of Selectmen, whereas the town of Boothbay and the county of Lincoln is concerned with the recent announcement of the service changes at St. Andrews Hospital by Lincoln County Healthcare and Maine Health, and whereas the town of Boothbay represents the community's concern in a manner that public organization of efforts are necessary, and whereas the towns of Southport, Edgecombe, and Boothbay Harbor have similar interests and concern in focusing on practical recourses, and whereas the towns of the peninsula desire to work together collaboratively in any effort that produces positive results, and whereas the towns of the peninsula met August 22nd, 2012 during a combined meeting discussing their resolve publicly, be it therefore resolved that the town of Boothbay, in an effort to work collaboratively, apparently I'm having trouble with that word today, with the towns of Southport, Edgecombe, and Boothbay Harbor, will produce representation for a task force to study and act decisively on the St. Andrews Research Project. Be it further resolved, the town of Boothbay will continue to act on changes to services in the Boothbay region and continue to collaborate with the peninsula's towns in these efforts, in witness whereof, if you decide, you can set your hands on that resolve. The reason why I think you should resolve is that brings more clarity to the agreement that I put in front of you, which is just a skeleton agreement saying that the towns will work together, and this is how we're going to work together. The most important parts of that agreement are within the terms, so the Boothbay Harbor, Southport, Edgecombe will utilize resources from one another in an effort established by the St. Andrews Task Force, which gives some power to the task force. They pretty much have the backing of the boards of selectmen. Every community will establish a representative from the municipality to represent their interest on the task force. The representative will be voted upon by the town's board of selectmen, and any changes to representation shall be approved by that town's board of selectmen. The town of Boothbay will act as the fiduciary agent, which is one that I'm going to ask you to act on independently of the agreement. Of the St. Andrews project, receiving donated funds, tracking donations, reporting the financials to the task force representatives, and expending funds approved by the task force will be the responsibility of the fiduciary agent. The Boothbay Harbor, Southport, this is, I think, is important in here. Boothbay Harbor, Southport, and Edgecombe will make independent decisions about the amount of donated money that they will contribute to the project. So if we want to throw $1 million and they want to throw $1 million, that's our decision to make. The St. Andrews Task Force will be restrained from expending contributions already received, so they can't spend $1 if they don't have $1. The town of Boothbay, and we'll ask you to, as a separate motion additionally, to act on this one. The town of Boothbay will act as the project administrator. The project administrator will be responsible for securing contracts, agreements, and facilitating the project at the discretion of the St. Andrews Task Force. So if any contracts need to be entered in, the town of Boothbay is going to take the lead on that. But that's why this agreement is important, because if we're signing the town of Boothbay, we want to know that this is with the other 3 towns also in conjunction. And then no expenditure agreement or contract will be acted upon unless approved by the majority of the St. Andrews Task Force. Now, the way it looks like to me, and we could change this, is that each town will have somebody on the task force, so you'll have an even number of 4, but 3 is an action item. 3 people need to vote in the affirmative to do anything. So this is a very basic agreement, but I think it brings some structure that the towns can agree to. And I've sent this out to all the other towns for them to look at. I tried to, as best I could in the amount of time that I had, to bring some structure to it.
Each of the representatives from the towns will appoint the task force, correct?
That's the one thing I didn't know, is if board members would be the task force rep, but I think it makes sense in our situation to just, so the decisions are made by the task force rep, but then we can bring on anybody that we need to bring on. They don't need to be appointed members. They don't, you have one person that's the decision maker for the town. So I think we discussed that Chuck would be that guy for us. Yep. He gets to come back to the Board of Selectmen under our report section and say, this is the things that we've acted on, and get consensus to act on the task force.
Has a letter gone out to Lincoln County Health Board?
Not yet. No, we just have run out of time. Literally, I finished this at 4:25 and then sent it to Tom.
I'm sure it won't matter. But
called Tom and said it's in your inbox, and so.
It probably won't make a bit of difference.
I think that, obviously we're not doing this in a position to force anybody's hand, but if they feel forced, then.
The reality of it is, our community wants us to do something.
Right. And the task force has people that want to donate money and skills, and I put a little bit of that in front of you I don't think that we need to get into the discussion about what everybody's throwing at us. There's certainly a lot of skills and talents and money that's been offered, and right now we're not ready to take any of that. But if you act on this tonight,
we won't be ready until we sign this.
Yeah, I believe there's a solution. If we don't do this, we're not going to find it.
yeah.
It's as simple as
And I've heard this debate 1,000 times in the last few weeks. Is this the place for government? maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
But we're the ones stepping up to the
It has
plate.
been before.
Yeah. We're the ones here. I think you have the option to take the bat and swing.
The people don't want us to bury our heads in the sand, and we're not.
Just doing what's being asked of us, that's all.
So what I would recommend is that you take the resolution, the agreement, and then those two portions of the agreement independently. You have 4 action items that I think you should move on if this is the direction the town wants to take.
Mhm.
And while everybody's paying attention, I've been getting a lot of phone calls of people saying, Jim, good job, and I just keep saying that this is the Board of Selectmen. I'm doing everything that the Board of Selectmen wants me to do. I appreciate the pats on the back, but this has been the point.
I don't know about you folks, but I haven't heard one negative thing from the councilors.
No.
No, well,
I like Jim, because once in a while, someone will say, do you think this is appropriate for the town to do this? And I said, well, you want to do it?
What town is it? There's one town in the state that ended up taking over the hospital.
I think there's
Foxtrot.
There was another one too.
Caribou.
What was it?
Vinyl-
Caribou, that's what I was.
Vinyl Haven has a.
That's the least, the
has a
last
separate-
thing that.
Yeah,
I don't want to get anybody's
See,
hope that that's the
exactly,
direction we're going to go
exactly.
in.
yeah.
But, yeah, but what I'm trying to make the case for is there is a time when the government should get involved.
Certainly.
Steve's been doing a little bit of research as well, and what'd you say, Vinyl Haven's got their own.
Vinyl Haven has their own ER. It's an accredited ER, without a hospital. So there are all kinds of options, we just need to find out what they are.
There's one caveat that you guys don't have to go there. But if we're gonna become the fiduciary agent, we've already in the budget process, in our audit process, have stumbled across monies that were donated for a cause that didn't have a backup cause to go at it. And I would suggest that if we're taking donations for an action, and there's leftover monies, that we determine where those monies go to. And I would throw out there that the capital improvement fund, or if there is one, capital improvement fund of the Boothbay Region Ambulance Service is a nice secondary option. So if we receive donated funds and we have extra funds at the end of this process, that's what we will do with it. We'll donate them to the ambulance capital improvement fund. And that went without solicitation from Steve. So.
they're not gonna try.
What do you think of that, Steve? Is that okay?
No comment.
That's the first time he's heard that.
Steve?
You said that this is, the town has gotten into a situation like this before, what was it? You said that the town, we've done.
When we accepted funds?
Well, I mean,
No.
have you got in?
Other towns.
Other towns, not us.
Okay, so this is the first time Boothbay's gotten themselves involved with private business, because this is a private business, isn't it?
It is, but it's a lot different than if Neil Rennie wants to
No,
close, you know what I
I'm
mean?
just gonna make one simple, does this set a precedent? Like the fish pier downtown, you know, that's got the Boothbay Harbor and all the different situations that they've been in. I would not want to have that line, you
Yeah,
know.
but I'd still make the argument that fish pier serves a select group of people, as of any other business. A hospital serves everybody.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. I just would hate to see it go any further than this type of thing, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't want to set a precedent,
I can't ever see the town owning the hospital. That would be bad.
like,
Yeah.
or any private business, any
Yeah,
corporate.
exactly.
One thing that struck me as,
Corporation.
one thing that struck me as interesting is I remember 4, 5, 6 years ago, the harbor approached St. Andrews about contributing to the rising cost of the ambulance. And they were always told, no, we don't give to a private corporation. And then Jim Donovan stated in the Register 2 weeks ago, they give 50 grand a year to Lifelight. It's pretty interesting. We use Lifelight 3, 4, 5 times a year.
Lifelight's a 501c3, similar to the ambulance service.
Oh.
So, rather than
So
give.
there's something else that they said that wasn't right.
I mean, granted, that was under old leadership when I remember the harbor when St. Andrews Village was first built. Of course, it made their call line go up, the budget meetings and everything. They always hammered that they should pay, and they always said, no, we don't give to other organizations.
I want to bring us back on topic, that, you know, you have some action items that you could do when we have a meeting with the task force. there's so many questions that have been posed that we don't have answers to. Let's let the GAT task force start working and come up with options that they can report back to the select.
In order to get us back on task, I entertain a motion to sign the resolution of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
So,
Okay, Steve's gonna make the motion, I'm just entertaining it.
all right, so I guess I'm saying,
Okay,
That's how I understood it.
absolutely.
Sounds good.
any questions? All those in favor?
Let's take
Motion
that,
passes.
take the moment to sign my copy, which will act as the original, and then we'll just make sure that that's clear.
Now, the other two motions, or three that you needed.
I'll entertain a motion to allow the town of Boothbay to act as a fiduciary agent for the St. Andrews project.
So moved.
Second.
Under discussion, it is my job to point out that, remember, that does come with risks, that we might enter into a contract that the town has to then make sure is followed through with. We're very safe in those contracts, but I just need to point it out.
Any other comments? Being none, all those in favor? I will entertain a motion to allow the town of Boothbay to act as the project administrator.
So moved.
Second.
Comments? Being none, all those in favor? Motion passes. And lastly, I'll entertain a motion to sign the agreement between the town of Boothbay, town of Boothbay Harbor, town of Southport, and town of Edgecombe for the St. Andrews Task Force.
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
Can we have the motion state that Chuck signs in place of the board's vote? So I've only designed the agreement to be very simple, one signature. One
That Chuck acts as
Town, yeah.
the representative to the task force.
This one was the, enter into the agreement, repeat it.
The last motion is to enter into the agreement between the town of Boothbay, town of Boothbay Harbor, town of Southport, town of Edgecombe to the St. Andrews Task Force.
Shouldn't we have that and then have another motion to appoint Chuck?
Yes. I don't think you can get too clear on this one. As long as Sherry can keep up with the minutes, I don't think you can be
Yeah, I
too
mean, it was
clear.
questioned at that public meeting, we might as well do it here.
Mm-hmm.
I
And then we
agree.
know there's no question.
I agree completely.
All those in favor of the agreement? Motion passes.
Make a motion to appoint Chuck Cunningham for Boothbay's representative, St. Andrews Task Force.
Second.
And since I'm the one that's being nominated, I will abstain from the vote. You get to run it.
I want to. All right, all those in favor? There is no opposed. Chuck's abstained.
So when an anonymous person stands up in the audience and says, I don't think you can do that, we can say, yes, we can.
Right, so that's why we've gone the extra mile in drafting the resolution, the agreement, and making sure that the motions are clear, so that it's just very cut and dry that this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to be very transparent and public about everything that we're doing. We just put it
As
with
different as that is.
I knew that somebody would comment on transparency. That's all I have, except for reiterating that the meeting is Wednesday at 7 p.m. here in this office. I've been pointing anybody that's offering skills to be here at that point. I hope we have enough room.
I'm sure that some people have contacted you. I put a couple of names to get to you as well. Get to the task force.
And I will try to organize as best as we can, but we haven't been prepared to accept anything until now, and now we're prepared to accept.
So how, if they would still want to donate, send it to the town or come into the town?
I think what I'll probably do is put a small blurb together to submit to the register to explain to people that if you want to donate to this project in monetary terms, that you would donate to the town of Boothbay and make sure that it says St. Andrews Project. And as of tomorrow morning, we'll have a separate account internally to track all of that.
Do you know if all of this stuff that we've got somewhere here, anyways, from Sarah, went to all towns? Because I think that was very interesting to have.
It has not yet. It has not yet. Essentially, when I came in Monday, I had to play catch up, and Steve pointed out that this was sitting here and probably should get to the board.
We forgot about it.
So I scanned it and sent it out.
Unless you wanted to keep yours, I'd rather have them
Why they haven't seen it?
Oh, I got it.
have it. No, back in the task force.
Oh, I got you.
The first thing that I want to ask the task force members is how they want information distributed. Like any one of you that has been on subcommittees of the town has seen that I have the same process. How do you want your information? You know, if they want it to go to all the board members and then, you know, like us, it goes to all board members, and then Chuck actually acts on the stuff that's St. Andrews, so you can stay abreast of it. That's up to the task force members if they want that done.
So at the Wednesday night meeting, the head table will be the representative from the 4 towns.
Yeah, representative.
And Jim and someone to take minutes. I'm just thinking of all the people that might be here if we open that up and sat at that table and then had this, all the chairs out here. I'm just trying to think, because I think you're right when you say it's gonna be crowded.
Yeah, I don't want it to be bureaucratic because the people that are coming we want them to feel like they're part of the group.
Yeah.
And I haven't quite figured that out yet. I guess we'll see what we get, and we'll make sure the intentions are known, that we really want to get out of everybody what they're offering, you know. There's some really unique skill sets that are out there. And some people want to take administrative role. I want to bring somebody in to take minutes, but maybe somebody can volunteer that portion.
Right.
No offense, but Sherry is really expensive.
I think
You gotta pay for what you get.
I think you'll get a lot of good people.
Maybe she'll come as the representative from Southport then.
Donated from Southport, we'll have to ask.
Donated from
If,
Southport.
if nothing else, it serves taxes.
That's all I have on the discussion, but I know that we have public comment next, so.
Do you guys have anything else for we open it? Public comment?
Regarding the sidewalk, what is the next step? You say you're waiting for a design to come from them?
Yeah, MDOT has their engineer, I forget the proper term, but they have a slew of engineers that goes over and tries to analyze all of the projects. And we're in that queue, so they'll look us over and then they'll come back to us and they'll say, this is how you fit into our funding process. But right now, like I said, we have hurdles that they're making us jump through. And that's part of the contract. When you enter into them being a funding partner of this, you enter into them picking apart your project. We get to opt out if we want, but that's one of those hard decisions that I'll leave for the much more knowledgeable people at a later date.
So if they come back with a design that appears to be 40 or 50% more expensive than expected, the town at that point may say, we can't do this.
Yeah, you can go either way. I mean, they could come back and say, we are not going to fund a design that has granite curbing, so all the granite curbing is on you. And then that could be the case. They could come in and say, we're going to fund, and we're going to add these aspects to your project that jumps it up to $750,000, and you're on the hook for 20%. And then we get to say we're in that or not in that. You know, we have opt-outs. We have plenty of opportunity to opt out. And that's what I'm trying to do is keep the board abreast of the discussions that we're having. Because if we get to that discussion of it, okay, now it's $750,000, we thought it was going to be $400,000, and that comes abruptly, that means I didn't do my job. Does that answer your question? I don't
Yes,
know if I
it does.
did. Okay.
Anyone else?
Lisa, is the register going to be at these meetings to keep people up to speed?
The St. Andrews?
Yes.
The task force, yes, Tim Allen's gonna be
I
following.
mean, as long as the public knows that so you're going to keep.
Absolutely, yeah, Sue will be covering that.
How about Channel 7?
I plan on
Glad to hear that, John.
So we just gave away a lot of people's social lives.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is if people know, though, if they're watching this and they know that they can watch it on Channel 7 or read about it the next day. Oh, I got a comment too. I love your new register online.
Yes.
So much better than what you used to have.
Oh, yeah, it's great, yeah, it's much better.
When you go away for the weekend, you come back Monday morning and go on and see what you missed.
Exactly.
Which is kind of neat.
Stuff is always going on
Right.
there daily, right, yeah.
At least people wouldn't feel that they have to come to this meeting. They can watch it or read it.
Yeah, I mean, we want the public to be engaged in this meeting, but it may be one of those things where we have so many talented people that we need to figure out a way to fit in the talent and the spectators all at once.
Well, I think as we saw Wednesday night, they plan on being very engaged in this.
Yeah, I think engagement is definitely, I'll have to admit that I'm intimidated by that, much engagement.
Oh, I was intimidated.
Yeah.
I'll be the person to. So do we need a motion now to go into executive
We
session?
need to review the warrants and sign them, and then I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So move. Second.
He made the motion, he just seconded it.
Whatever.
You get that?
And we won't return to regular session.
No, we'll need no action.
All in favor?
Oh,